podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to a new podcast, The Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello and welcome again to The Paddock and the Pavilion. It's good to be back talking to you in 2021. We have plenty of inspiring stories lined up this year. Keep tuning in and spread the word about the show. Today's guest is the current Leicestershire County cricket coach and former England wicketkeeper Paul Nixon. In a 23-season career, Paul scored nearly 15,000 first-class runs and took 889 catches. A dual county championship winner, Paul also enjoyed tremendous success in the white ball game, playing in the 2007 World Cup for his country and winning the domestic T20 competition on 3 occasions. I hope you enjoyed today's first show of 2021. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Hello there. My pleasure.
Well, a happy Christmas to you. Now, the last time I saw you was actually on television when I saw you in the cold in the quarter final of the Vitality Blast. That must have been such a disappointing evening in the end for you.
Yeah, result-wise, obviously bitterly disappointing. Bitterly cold and bitterly disappointing. So that's sport. We've got a young side. We're learning, and a couple of little errors cost us in the field. But as a collective, we're always very honest with our reflections. And to be fair, we were 20 short. We were probably 25 short on that wicket. With a lot of due, and we put our bowlers under pressure, but our bowlers were incredible and got us back in the game really. So not good side. They had 2 overseas pros. We had Gareth Delaney from Ireland who did brilliantly for us as a stand-in, and he was a great lad, and he won us quite a few games, which was wonderful. So we'll learn good things to help us keep our standards high moving forward.
But what is it like as a county cricket coach during late December? What are you up to?
Busy. Planning new sessions for the winter, reflections on the past few weeks that we've been in. Obviously, COVID's taught us a lot of new coaching ideas and methods and timetables, because smaller groups, more one-to-one time with players has worked well. Slightly longer days for coaches, but that's not a problem. We've got a good work ethic at the club, so that's fine. We're planning the new year. We've got Julian Wood, who's a power hitter coming in. He was at Essex and Hampshire for a while, and he brought some great ideas. From baseball, and we're looking forward to it. He's coming in and going to do some power hitting sessions.
So are the players not back yet?
Yeah, players back in for a couple of weeks before Christmas. So they went hard on their speed work and their fitness work. So guys are getting stronger, more resilient, we've been some great enthusiasm over the last couple of weeks, which was great. And we're just trying to get the systems in place for the oncoming for the post Christmas. And really looking forward. The lads are ready to inspire Leicestershire cricket again next summer.
Oh, good. All sounds good there. Now, you've just reached your own personal half century. When did you first get drawn into cricket?
Sports mad father, who played football and rugby locally. Football and cricket locally, and rugby was the only sport I probably didn't really play. My dad, and up in Cumbria and Penrith in the Lake District, little village called Langwathby, where my dad farmed Langwathby Hall and Crossfallview Farm with his father and a lot of other workers, and I loved it. I grew up on the farm. Always a lot to do, always a great work ethic, always looking for things to do. And watching Carlisle United as a boy was my passion, and playing cricket and local sport. I was very lucky that the village green was a hotbed of all ages, playing football, rugby, cricket, bulldogs, rounders every night, whether it was dads, mums, grandparents. Everybody was together, and it was a lovely environment to grow up in, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
But when did you first put the pads on and keep wicket?
Good question. I think when I was about 10 years old, I played for Cumbria under 13s when I was 10, and we played at Northumberland one night, and it was one afternoon. And I always remember the pitch, it was quite quick. We had a young lad called Stephen Brocklebank, he was a fast bowler, and he was quite quick at that age. He's from West Cumbria, Brock. He's only like 5'1", 5'2", but he was quick, big mane of curly black hair. And he was very quick. He was a good rugby player as well. He was very quick. And the young keeper let 35 byes past. And I think I was the only person that day who never got a ball. And then when they came in the evening, they said, does anybody else fancy keeping wicket? And my hand went up straight away. I thought, I'm not going to be bored at third man, final leg, mid-off. I want to be in the mixer. And I loved every minute of it. Just being involved, every ball, and having that determination to do well every ball was great.
Oh, so it was partly because you're noisy as a child that you like to keep in wicket as well, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I always had something to say. I was an only child, but I had the next door farm to us was 100 yards, 150 yards away. It was Townhead Farm, the Holiday Boys, and there was John, Mark, Tim, and Phil, 4 lads. John, a year older than me, who's my wife's age, Jen, age 51 now, and then Mark, who was my age, who's the farmer, and Tim, who's a couple of years younger, who's a builder, and Philip, who works at Liverpool Football Club, who's the youngest. So there was always somebody around, always somebody to shout at and somebody to shout to in the back garden on the village green. So we, I think growing up in the Cumbrian leagues as well, it was a very competitive league. So you made sure that shy kids didn't get the sweets, as it were.
Oh, so you're in the right place behind the wickets. But moving on, I've located that you played for Cumberland, and you played a couple of games. You must have been at school because you'd only be 16, I think, in those 2 games. Your first one was against, I think, Bedfordshire, but I found the second one, which interested me because coming from Cambridgeshire here and having played against myself, quite a lot of the players in this Cambridgeshire side, and in June 1987, was this your home ground at Penrith as well?
Well, no, my dad captained Penrith when I was a youngster, and then he came back to our local cricket club, which was Eden Hall. And Eden Hall was literally just about a mile out of the village, half a mile out of the village. And there's a football pitch and a cricket pitch. The football pitch was closest to our village, Langwathie. It was called Langwathie Football Club. And the cricket pitch was next to Eden Hall, close to Eden Hall, which was Eden Hall Cricket Club. So, it was my school ground, really, because school backed on to the cricket field at Ullswater High School where I went to school. So Penrith, yes, it was a home club as far as my father captained the club when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, but we went back to Eden Hall, where our village club. So, but Penrith, I knew it well.
But just for listeners, I've obviously researched the scores of this particular game. But Cumberland batted first and got 96. A young Paul Nixon was caught. Ian Lawrence, who comes from Ely, bowled Stuart Turner for naught. Cambridgeshire then went on to make a massive score of 122, and then Cumberland's second innings, you were bowled out for 47, with Stuart Turner, the former Essex legend, getting 10 wickets for 11 runs. Now, it wasn't all bad for you, Paul, because you got 6 of those 47, and you were the second highest scorer.
I think I was last out as well. I went back to hook the ball. It was a short ball. I went back to hook it and pull it. He never left the ground and hit my ankle, and I was LBW, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was really unfortunate. The wicket had got wet at one end, and they decided, do we play or do we not play? And it got wet under the covers. And Stuart Turner just hit a perfect area. They hit every ball. He sort of hit the sort of wet patch that would last. It was quite a thin, if I remember, it was like quite a thin strip, but it was over quite a decent length. And he just hit the right line and got the really wet patch where some would fly, some would shoot. I mean, it was like probably playing cricket in the 1950s. But people were so keen to play and mad to play that we did it. And it was a brilliant achievement from him. He bowled magnificently. And
well, it was a good result for the visitors anyway. But I then looked up and I see you played second 11 cricket to start with for Middlesex. And your first game was against Leicestershire. Why were you playing for Middlesex second 11?
Yeah, I was fortunate really to go down because Cumbria obviously is a minor county and Cumberland are a minor county. And then, there was no Durham in those days to go and trial at. I went to trial at Lancashire because I played for Vickers Sports Club as a 15, 16-year-old and went down to Vickers. That allowed me to play in the in the Lancashire Federation. I played down in there for a little while, and a few games in the Lancashire Federation. And unfortunately for me, Lancashire signed Warren Hegg, who was a class act just coming through as a youngster, highly rated. And then I went on trial to Warwickshire, and Keith Piper had just signed for Warwickshire as well, so that didn't happen. Unfortunately for me, playing for north of England, England schools, north of England and England schools, I went down in the trial at the England festival, the Bunbury Festival, at one in rugby school, one at Truro in Cornwall. And Don Wilson, the late Don Wilson, the Yorkshire left-arm spinner, who was head coach of the
at MCC, wasn't he? Yeah, indoor school.
Asked me if I could, if I'd come on the indoor school and be with the MCC and professionals, which I did. So the Lord's ground staff, as we called it. And I was down there, and I went. Middlesex had, I think it was Paul Downton went to the England team. Brownie went into the first team. A guy called Martin Ollie as well went into the first team, and then a second team slot, and I went into the second team slot as a makeshift keeper for them at the time. So played there for 7 or 8 weeks. Thought I was going to. The Middlesex decided not to offer me a contract. Went up to Leicestershire and played against Leicestershire. I think was it Uxbridge? I think it might have been not Uxbridge, sorry, the Lensbury Club, I think it was.
Yeah, Teddington, I think it is.
Teddington. That's right. And I ended up doing well against them. Ken Higgs liked me. The coach said, come up and have some games with us. And I went up and had a picture at Grace Road where Alan Donald bowled a speed of light down the hill at Grace Road as a young wild Afrikaans. He was bowling absolute express then, and he was express then because he didn't have the radar that he had later on in his career. And I got a couple of 30s that particular game, and Mike Turner signed me on the dotted line, which will always be forever in his debt.
Well, you made your debut for Leicestershire in 1989. Do you remember your first victim?
I don't actually. I should do, shouldn't I? I remember we played.
Well, I know it's one of two, but you'll have to work out which one it is because I couldn't work it out. It's either Jason Ratcliffe or Andy Lloyd, but
I'll say Andy Lloyd.
I don't know which one because you can't tell on Cricket Archive.
I ask Jason Ratcliffe that because he's a sports agent now, and he's always ringing me wanting players to come and sign for us. So I must speak to Ratters about that.
Well, it was Winston Benjamin was bowling when Jason was out, and Jonathan Agnew was bowling when Andy Lloyd was out. So, but you made a good start because you got 4 catches in both innings of your first match. Yeah, I missed a stumping as well. Peter William never ever lets me forget. Great game. We were at Grace Road, we were at Hinckley, which is one of our outgrounds. So the wicket was a little bit greener and it was a bit more seamer friendly. So. You're always going to be in the game as a keeper, which thankfully I was. But you were part of a very successful Leicestershire side during the 90s. You reached the Gillette Cup final in 1992 and won the championship in 96 and 98. What made Leicestershire such a good side during that period? We were well led with Nigel Bryce in the first place. He was much more of a disciplinarian, very determined and, much more of a Nasser Hussain type character, and then James Whittaker took over, and James was outstanding captain, a real good thinker, very positive. We had some good players, we had good players who knew their roles, their role clarity. We got on well as a group. We didn't have any troublesome characters. We were a very close unit. Small clubs have to be a close unit if you want to be successful. And we had a good attack. Alan Mullally, David Milnes were knocking on England's door all the time. And, we got runs. Vince Wells was a fantastic player, came up from Kent. Gordon Parsons was a wonderful bowler who just put the ball in a sixpence and kept it tight. And John Agnew had pace and bounce, ball great line and length. Les Taylor was around then. Winston Benjamin, overseas pro, world-class fast bowler. George Ferris, world-class fast bowler who not many people would have heard of. He was the quickest bowler I ever kept wicket to and ever saw for many years. Hansi Cronier was an overseas pro for us. Phil Simmons, obviously, when we won with Phil. Yeah. So Chris Lewis was a high-class all-rounder. Young Darren Maddy played well. We had Ben Smith churning runs out after Habib. We had a good all-round side, a good spinner at Adrian Pearson, and before that Matt Brimson as well. So we had some really good players who were real journeymen. Probably only Alan Mullally who really made it in the bright lights. We just found a way of winning and believed we were going to win, and that was a great thing. We had real belief, and we were consistent. 1996,
we batted first on 10 occasions in 16 games, which is unheard of. And I don't think that will ever be beaten, that particular record. Batting once on 10 occasions is in 16 matches is amazing.
Well, you scored plenty of runs as well. You got over 1,000 runs in 1994 when you were runners-up. But you moved to Kent in 2000. What was the reasoning behind moving?
Yeah, it was a big wrench for me to leave. Things were going well. I was a heartbeat of the squad. I felt like I was a heartbeat of the team, playing consistent cricket, giving energy, helping everybody else along the way as well. And said, Paul, Steve Marsh is thinking about finishing. We've got a great pedigree and history of England wicketkeepers at the club. We want you to be an England wicketkeeper. We see you as our missing link in our side. I think around the sort of 2000, in 1999, 2000, I felt we'd peaked as a team. Chris Lewis was starting to behave not as well as he had done previously. Alan Mullally was moving to Hampshire. David Mills was getting a bit older and had a few more niggles. And I just felt we'd peaked as a club. We'd been, won 2 championships, and I still believe we'd have won in 1997 if we hadn't had so much rain. We'd lost 2,000 overs with rain over 20 days cricket. And Kent were bridesmaids in 3 competitions. They were second in 3 competitions. So they had a hell of a team, well led by Matthew Fleming. They had world-class players, a lot of England players. And I just felt, they came in, they offered me a contract. They virtually doubled my salary, and I couldn't turn it down. It was a great new journey for me to go down and be with a really successful club, a big club as well. A lot of members, playing on a full house in most games, fantastic cricket pitches that they played on for somebody who batted 5, 6, 7 and keep wicket on. So it's important to go to a good attack with a good place that you can score runs as well. So Kent, it was a no-brainer for me.
And you soon got recognition for England as you were picked on the England tour to Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Did you think when you went on the tour that you had a chance of playing in the Test side?
I'd hoped. You always hope that you do well in games in between. And if Stewie gets an injury or he has a lull of form, but Alex Stewart, as we all know, his nickname is the Gaffer. He's been the boss for many years, and unfortunately for me, he didn't get injured. I tried to drop my bat in the dressing room on his big toe or his little toe, nip to the toilet and close the door behind him on his fingers, but it didn't work. Stu was the model pro, and it was just great to be part of an England setup and to see what the standards like, how people went about their business, and work with world class players. And Nasser was a fantastic captain. There's some seriously good senior players, and the energy of Darren Gough, who was roaring in day in, day out, and Craig White and Andrew Flintoff, a young Flintoff coming through, was just starting to get consistent then. And I loved it. We won both series, played some amazing cricket, and got on like a house on fire. And it was it gave you a real fire and passion in your belly to want to be the number 1 keeper.
But that wasn't the end of your England career, because you had to wait until the age of 36, but you got called up for the England one-day side in Australia. England had just lost 5-0 in the Ashes series, so was that a surprise when you got called up?
Yes and no, really. Yes, it was a surprise because I was 36, but Michael Vaughan had said to me when we played against Yorkshire later on in the year, he just said, Nico, stay cricket fit, don't get gym fit. And he said, you never know what's going to happen in Australia. So he was already thinking then that Australia had a good side, might struggle in the Test matches. The one days might need some more passion, some new energy and some new determination and some new ideas. So, I didn't go to the Leicester Tigers and get fit and strong. I just indoor nets. Unfortunately for me, David Graveney gave him all you've been named as the first choice keeper, and you're going to be coming out on Boxing Day.
What was the mood of the camp like, having lost so badly in the Ashes?
Yeah, very down, very quiet, very sombre. There was a Test match left. There was the Sydney Test left as we arrived. The lads were just in the nets as we arrived, and I got off the plane, and Ian Botham and Sir Richard Branson both met me and hoped I had a good flight and wished me well, and so they wished me good luck moving forward, which was lovely. And then then we started it. We were very two separate camps to start with. While the test guys were still playing, the one days we were sort of off to a club ground down the road from the hotel, and we were practicing alone and leaving the other guys to it. And Duncan Fletcher was very much keeping the new energy together, and then we'll come in all together after the test matches had finished.
Well, the tri-series with New Zealand and Australia was a success because we won the competitions, and that earned you a place in the World Cup in the West Indies in later that year, or in the later spring. That must have been something special to play in a World Cup.
That's what you dream about, isn't it? Playing as a kid in the West Indies, to go to Australia in the Tri-Nations and beat Australia, beat New Zealand in a really tight-fought series was wonderful. And then to go to the West Indies was, the ice on the cake. And I learned good lessons because I'd kept wicket well in Australia, but I hadn't got the runs. I knew we were always 25, 30 short when I went in, and I probably tried to be too aggressive too soon and took some bad options and got out and never scored the runs I'd like to have scored on good pitches. And I learned that I had to give myself a chance, and I gave myself a chance when I went in the West Indies. I made sure I got in. I made sure I rotated before I dominated, and I had a good series. I got us out of jail a few times. I played in a couple of tight games that one against, obviously we never got over the line against Sri Lanka that people remember, but there was a great game, a great finish against the West Indies, my last game, which was a wonderful finish. That Stuart brought it, the winning runs 9 down, which was a really memorable game. KP got a brilliant 100. To play in so many wonderful games and do well, was really pleasing.
As you said, you had a successful time both with the gloves and the bat in the World Cup. You averaged 38. So when you came back from the World Cup, I know you were picked in some of the early squads. You must have hoped to have played a test match when you came home that summer.
Yeah, I really was, Stephen. I thought this was going to be my time. I was still fit and well, even though I was 36 in my 37th year, I was still as fit as most guys. In fact, I was gutted because when we came back, I hadn't been doing any fitness when we were away because we were so busy playing. That Alistair Cook beat me in a fitness challenge, and I hadn't been beaten before then. So it was time to get back training again because I always prided myself on my fitness. But they did a winter at home working hard, and we'd been playing, obviously. So, I felt like I was ready to play. I was in a good place. My game was in a good place. I felt like I'd earned the respect of my fellow teammates. And it was, I was ready to play. I was looking forward to it. I'd always had my ambition to make my debut against the West Indies because they were the greatest side when I grew up, the West Indies and then the Australians. And I always thought I'd played against the West Indies at Lords, make my debut and score 100. But it wasn't meant to be. I think Matt Pryor did the same thing on that day. But I look back with fond memories and, disappointed I didn't play Test cricket. I think I would have done well in Test cricket. I think it was made for me. I know I played a lot of cricket and I had I batted that middle order and I had a lot of not outs. I know I could have scored a lot more runs with a lot of not outs, but if I'd batted maybe higher for longer, I might have scored a few more runs. But I've loved every minute of it, and I loved every minute of my England career.
Well, you moved back to Leicestershire for the start of the 2003 season, and that really began your success in the T20 game. Leicestershire reaching the finals in the first 4 years and winning the trophy in 2004 and 2006. Why do you think Leicestershire were and have been such a good T20 side?
I think our players, we never had any world-class players. We had a lot of good county pros who were under the radar. That game suited us a little bit shorter. We hadn't been as consistent in the longer format, that particular side. So we had a lot of guys that were a lot of good all-rounders in the team. And we were well led. Jeremy Snape, Philip de Freitas might have captained us 1 year, then Jeremy Snape led us in future years, and we had a week off before the main tournament started, and we tried all sorts of things. We weren't anywhere in the championship. We had a week of playing games, centre wicket practice, which is always gold, as county players know, because you don't get that very often. Certainly not at Leicester, and because the amount of games that get played on the ground. So we had centre wicket practice all week, and we tried all sorts from a scripted 5 or 6 balls in an over, from the first ball being a slow ball to the next ball being off 3 or 4 yard run up to the next ball being a bouncer to the next ball being a slow ball, and so on. So we tried everything. We tried being really noisy on the sidelines towards our own players, how it felt for the opposition, and we tried little strategies which we still use now in matches that were successful for us. So I think having that extra week off put us in a really good place when we were ready, and people knew their roles. We'd had time to practice. We were playing other games and in the games, so it was a perfect run for us. Actually, we couldn't have had it any better.
And with the T20 game, you ended your own personal career on a high, winning the competition in 2011. That must have been something special to finish on such a good note.
Yeah, it was. You always go out on a high. You know, it's very rare that it happens, and when it does, it's very special. We just had to win that game, and the guys, you know, we were just peaking at the right time. And Andrew McDonald, I remember, was playing beautifully as he opened the batting many times and batted through a lot. We had some serious players, and the guys are brilliant. You know, they were just desperate to win it for us, and you know, I'd had a lot of good match-winning times myself, and in the quarterfinal, like at Grace Road, we'd had a decent game. We came in, and I got 30 odd in about 19, 20 balls, and got carried around the ground by the crowd as we finished our celebrations, which was wonderful. So I think the lads were just desperate to win it for us, and Matthew Hoggard, our captain, had been fantastic, and we had a great spirit in the side. We believed we could win from anywhere, and when you win some close games, it gives you a real belief, and we've done that. And the finals days, to go into super overs to win games, and in the past we've been in super overs as well, and it was just amazing. So delighted to walk off. It was a funny one because I'd had so many. This could be my last game. At Grace Road, it could have been my last game, and then in the semi-final it could have been my last game, and in the final it could have been my last game. So it was. I was ready to go in the end. My body was tired. I played 23 years of professional cricket, and I didn't want to let anybody down at the end, especially when you've got niggles. I had 5 knee operations. My knees, I wasn't moving as quickly as I'd like to do, and the brain and the body are not quite in sync like they used to be. So your mind wants to, but it just doesn't. The body doesn't move as quick as you'd like to and sharp as you'd like to, and your eyes just start to go a little bit. Even though I'd had them lasered earlier on, but my eyes were just starting to go. So it was the right time to go, and to go out on that note was wonderful.
Oh, it's a good place when you can go when you want to go, and at a successful time. And you'd played in 4 decades, 14,000 runs, 2100s. So a very successful career. Was it always your intention to go into coaching?
No, not really. I'd always enjoyed life. I'd always enjoyed coaching. I believe as a senior player, you help the coaching staff out, and you be a leader as well. And I always enjoyed throwing balls at guys. I always enjoyed throwing balls at batsmen who are in good form, because you feel from them, you get a feeling from them of what they're doing well, how they're moving, the timers that they're moving, the way their hands go over the ball for longer, and how balanced they are. And I enjoyed always throwing at good players. And I really enjoyed throwing at people like Graham Hick on the England tour, Marcus Trescothick, Nick Knight. And it was great for me that I got offered a coaching gig so soon. I also had a little sort of a college in effect. I set up a college. I gave the opportunity for kids in the Leicester area who struggled at school, didn't enjoy school, who loved sport, wanted to go into sports coaching or sport in some way, shape or form. And I had like a college which I set up in a foundation that I had. And I think coaching at grassroots level is one of the toughest things. And people who consistently coach at grassroots level, that's a really tough mentally and physically. And I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed working with world-class players as well. So I think as a keeper batsman, you see things a lot. You see angles, you're close to batsmen, you see bowling lines and actions and biomechanics and the energy of a team as a keeper. So I think it puts you in a good place to coach. And then obviously you've got to learn how to coach and how to get the best out of players and maximise them and make them be their authentic selves. and doing my coaching badges was important to me, and I got offered to go to the Caribbean Premier League to coach quite quickly. Michael Holding asked me if I'd be interested in going, which I did, and we were successful. And I really enjoyed that short format with Leicestershire, so I had good knowledge to pass to our team, our Jamaican Talawa team, led by Chris Gayle, who was fantastic. And we had a good side with the likes of Moralithian, Andre Russell, Shakib Alassane. We had some high-class players. So to be around those guys, Kumar Sangakkara consistently, you learn as a coach, but also you develop in some of their winning mentalities as well, which is great.
Well, you're mixing with some real legends there. What was it like coaching the Universe Boss then?
Yeah, well, the Universe Boss is an experienced pro. He knows his game, but also, every senior player, there's about checkpoints. He likes to get his balance right. He likes to do his drills. He doesn't have many nets, but he has a lot of drill work. So he does no feet drills, gets his hands going, gets his head over the behind his hands, going down the back of the bat. Then he starts to move his feet. And it's just, Kumar Sangakkara likes a lot of balls being thrown at him, likes to get his 1-2 pre-ball movement moving well and consistently and early. When he's a bit late, his feet don't move and he gets caught sort of point and square of the wicket. So, which happened a few times. As a coach, sometimes you have to be brave. When you know you're right and players feel that they're right and they're not quite right, you can show them footage and prove to them why you're thinking these things. And good players to get to that level have a very open mindset. And that's one thing that I've learned, that the world's best always want to get better, and that's how you have to be. So they made it easy for me, really.
And you moved back to Leicester at the end of 2017. That must have been something you'd look forward to coming back to Leicester.
Yeah, I'd always lived in Leicester, and I was still at home in Leicester. I only lived probably, as the crow flies, probably 3 or 4 miles from the ground. So it was a dream job to come back home. The guys had lost a lot of senior players in the last few years, from H.D. Ackerman, who churned out many runs for Leicestershire. Claude Henderson, who was the first ever Colpack player from South Africa. Claude had come over from South Africa. He was world class and should have played 150 Test matches, in my opinion. Matthew Hoggard had finished. Myself, I finished. And it's tough then when you lose all your senior players at once. You've got to rebuild. And Andrew McDonald had brought in a lot of senior players from other counties. A slightly short-term strategy that had just passed and just gone over the hill, and it was time for a change. And Pierre de Bruyne came, put some great systems in place. I think it was a little bit of a clash of 1 or 2 personnel, and it didn't quite work. And Pierre was a good man and loves the game and a very good coach, but personalities didn't work. And I got the opportunity, and I think it was the right place at the right time for me. Leicester were bottom of everything and needed some fresh ideas, some fresh energy. We got a new young coaching group together. John Sadler was there, who I'd played with at Leicestershire. He'd come back from Derbyshire. We got Matt Mason, the bowling coach, in. Graham Welsh had gone back to Warwickshire. And Mace and Sads, we put some great systems in place and got some good discipline going again at the club. And I sort of sat back for my first sort of year, really, and just had to analyse and not jump in. I had to analyse of what we had, who was doing what, who took responsibilities for different things, who enjoyed doing different things and who didn't enjoy different things. And as we've grown, Mace went back to Western Australia, to Perth, to coach out there where he's from originally. And Tom Smith came in, and we got Tom in from Lancashire, the ex-Lancashire captain, a fantastic one-day cricketer, who was a brilliant young coach as well. We'd heard great things. Tim Boone actually mentioned Tom Smith to me, and we went to meet Tom and got on like a house on fire. Knew he'd bring good things. And then John Sadler decided he wanted to go and have an opportunity at Northamptonshire, because David Ripley was involved in the 100. He wanted to be involved as a first-team head coach. So he felt that he wasn't going to get that at Grace Road behind myself, a young coach. So he went to Northants. unfortunately for him, the 100 was cancelled this year, but hopefully he'll be, a head coach at some stage. So, it was great that Tom came up into my assistant coach, and then we got a young man, Dips Patel, a brilliant young Asian coach who's got, passion running through his veins. He's got an amazing work ethic, who went into our second team coach. So we've got a young working team. We're all learning as coaches, and we've had some good success in the past, but we're ready to kick on again and have a really successful journey back to top flight cricket and winning competitions.
And you're confident that Leicestershire, with this young side, can go places? Yeah. I
really am. This team reminds me a lot of the 96, 98 vibe. A smaller squad which we've just added to. We want to be the hardest working, most caring cricket environment. We are now averaging over 20 in our yo-yo test, which when I arrived at the club we were about 17 and a half, 18. Now we're going through the gears in our fitness, which will give us real determination and drive for getting through, and resilience getting through the last days of games, longer spells, bigger scores, being fitter and stronger and more mentally tougher. So that's gone really well. With COVID, we've had to change our structures to have smaller groups and longer days, which has worked well. We're working with speed coaches to get the guys quicker, sharper, faster, more agile. And we've got our recruitment. We've got a guy called Dan Weston, who's a world-class analyst and a Moneyball guy who's got all the algorithms on computers that we employ to make sure that we can attract the very best talent from around the world to slot into our particular profile of team that we want to create. And we also do a lot of personalised profiling of players with a company called Innomatrix, who are the best in the field, in my opinion, so that we understand our players' learning, we understand their values, we understand their subconscious thinking and their behaviours. So we'll get on well much quicker. We know people's learning styles, who needs more time to adapt, who needs to do things quicker, who's about consistency, who's about trying things, and all these, mixed together. These downtimes in Christmas holidays, as we are now, we've got a management meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30, and we'll go through how the last 2 weeks have gone, how we've communicated, how we're going to get better, what's a bit of a stop-start continue model, and how we're going to move forward. So it's the work's never done. You want to be successful, you have to put the work in.
This is very different from when you first started playing with all this data and analysis. Are you going to be putting up these cards like the England team did in the one-day series?
Yeah, I think the press have just caught onto that stuff. I mean, to be fair, teams have been doing similar things for a few years now. So whether it's certain coloured cones that you have in your dugout that people haven't noticed yet, or on the balcony.
I'll be watching now. Yeah.
There's different things that people do. So there's a lot of matchups going on. There is a lot of analytical data that's out there. But again, some people like it and some people don't. We have disc profiles that some people can't get enough of it. Yet there's on the disc profile that we use as well, one part of the process that we use, some people hate it. Some people like to see their own bowling and batting, and some people don't. So we, as a coach, you have to have all the tools. And when people want whatever they want, and you can help guide them towards things, of course. But ultimately, they manage. The managing directors of their own company, as Jeremy Snape, our old captain, used to say. They're the managing director, and they have to lead it. And with young players, sometimes you have to lead them sometimes. But we're getting a nice balance now, and I think we're really seeing a nice shift of belief and a shift of skill set.
So you think that Leicestershire can do well in 4-day cricket as well as the 1-day cricket going forward?
No question. Yeah, that's our goal. Absolutely. We've been very proud of our heritage of producing England cricketers over the years. I believe we've provided as many England players over the years as any county, and we want to do that. We want to make sure that we're back strong again in 4-day cricket. We had a wonderful win against Lancashire last year at Worcester, which was a bit random because of COVID, but we had some good performances. We should have beaten another couple of sides, but it's work in progress, and we've got short-term goals. We've got 3-5-year goals as well, which we want to achieve, and we're on the way to doing that.
And Paul Nixon, are you yourself looking at some point to coach in some of the franchises, the IPL, things like that?
Oh, that would be fantastic, of course. I think having any world-class franchise is a great thing. I've been very lucky to coach in the Caribbean Premier League, and we were successful there. And then we were quarter-finalists in the the Bangladesh Premier League this time last year. I was in Bangladesh, and with the Chattogram Challengers, we had a wonderful team that just got pipped at the post. Andre Russell smashed us around the ground to win the game, as he often does, which he did over there to win the competition as well. So I enjoy that. I enjoy the franchise cricket. You learn a lot. You meet a lot of good players who you can hopefully get relationships with to bring back in the future to Grace Road. IPL will be a dream, of course. So you keep being successful. I think if you're successful at home, then opportunities will open up, of course.
And of course, we've got the 100 again next season as well, so which hopefully will go well.
Yeah, exciting format. I think everybody's looking forward to it. It's something that I think anything that brings money into our game and brings a new vibe, a new dimension, then we have to embrace that. And we are certainly seeing the fruits of that money that comes through into county cricket, and hopefully it'll go through to grassroots level as well. So billion pound TV deals. Our game needs that. We'll see what it does and how it's attracted the world's best in football, and that's what we need in cricket also.
Well, thank you very much for those thoughts, and thank you very much for being on the Paddock and the Pavilion. The best of luck to Leicestershire for the 2021 season, and hopefully we'll see crowds back at Grace Road and cricket grounds around the country.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, that'd be great, doesn't it? I mean, it feels so strange right now with all the guys walking out to play in 2020 matches where you can hear the ball land and then you got to go and find it, and people going right of it, left of it. But yeah, getting the crowds back will be wonderful. And thank you for your well wishes. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, if going back, if you'd have been playing this season, we'd have certainly heard your voice in the crowd, wouldn't we? Or on the TV.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah, I remember as a boy, one of my first memories actually was the late great David Bairstow. My dad took me down to watch Yorkshire versus Warwickshire at Headingley, and I remember Bluey's voice booming around the ground before Johnny was born. I always remember that, and maybe there's a bit of me there as well in David Bairstow having that drive to do well, and he was. I always remember him very, very, very strongly.
Well, thank you again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Pad and Pav.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Do you own a business? You can now offer your employees health benefits, such as no-cost doctor's office visits and free prescriptions for just $35 per employee. River Health is a subscription plan that offers affordable health benefits to companies of all sizes. Tap the banner to learn more about why Fortune 500 companies and small businesses trust River Health with offering health benefits to their employees. Or visit riverhealth.com to get started.